There's the reality of the ultimate sacrifice. It's so close to home.
At our house, he is the known.
Sometimes you just gotta use the right thing.
Hey everybody, welcome to That Voiceover Podcast, the show that is for and about voiceover. This is Mike Greco, and my guest today is kind of what you'd call a blue-collar working man's actor. He does everything from voiceover to commercials to television and film, and he is currently the lead character in the new video game Mafia 2. He is Rick Pasqualone. Rick, welcome to the show.
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
I'm good. So, you know what? Let's start talking about the video game first. Mafia 2. Were you in Mafia 1 as well?
There was a Mafia 1. It was done about 8 years ago. I had nothing to do with it, which is why this game is infinitely better.
Obviously. It's obviously 100 times better right off the bat. Yeah. So you started off, obviously, you must have auditioned for this just at the agency.
Yeah, they had done an early round. This is going back well over 2 years ago.
Oh wow!
They had done an early round of casting, and I went in and read for Jack Scalisi, who was directing the game and was doing a lot of the dialogue. And I did he just put me in a room with a bunch of pages, and I just went through about 20 or 30 different characters, and we kind of selected one, which was, kind of very close to my own voice. And he said, I think that's going to be good for Vito, who was the lead in the game. And I went, great. I really hadn't done a lot of video games up to that point. Didn't really know what it entailed. And then we kind of went off from there.
So how many overall sessions do you think you did in recording the whole video game?
I think I'd have to look, but it was probably in the neighborhood of 40 or 50, which is a lot for a video game. Yeah, I mean, usually, as usually you do these video games, you go in and you do a couple lines from the script, totally out of context, and they kind of cut it together. What was unusual with Mafia 2 was that there was myself and then two other actors who Andre Filiuzzo and Bobby Costanzo, two nice Irish kids.
Yeah.
So what we all did, we went into a room at POP Studios, and they basically had us read through the entire script, and we just played every single character in the script. What happened was they had written it originally in Czech. The game was developed in Czechoslovakia. It was then translated into English by a British guy. So it then fell to us, the Italian American actors, that they could find to make it sound authentic and give it that Scorsese touch that people have come to expect. And over the course of 2 years, we probably did 40 or 50 sessions to get it to the point where it became conversational and cinematic and dramatic. And I think that because of that process, it did turn out well. It's been getting a lot of good notices for the truth of the game. The cutscenes and the gameplay is very realistic, and people have been responding.
Were you speaking some Italian too, or is it just all the quasi-Italian that the Goombas use?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of that. There certainly was a lot of that. Again, to give it that realistic touch, he allowed us to improvise a lot in the early sessions, which we were able to throw in our own personal touches. But then at some point, I actually had to speak Sicilian in the game, which I had never spoke before. And they actually got a guy that came in, and I just duplicated his accent and his pronunciations. And it was like I might as well have been learning Swahili, because to me it was a completely different language than Italian.
Because you speak proper Italian, because you speak Italian.
Like regular. Exactly. This was a completely new language, but honestly, I haven't actually played the game yet. I don't know how much of that actually made it into the game, but from the cutscenes that I've seen, they kept quite a bit of what we were coming up with.
Was it already animated, or were they reanimating things to your new dialogue?
Because the process took so long, and because they were animating and doing the motion capture in the Czech Republic, we would record a bunch of scenes. They would send that dialogue over to Bruno in Czech Republic, and they'd get these Czech actors to approximate what we were doing. Then they sent it back to us, and we would modify it, and they would work on the facial animation as we were going. They would videotape us in the booth, but so that they could get our mouth movements and and to try to approximate, because their command of English was limited, so they were trying to get it as close as possible to what we were doing.
So, and now you've worked on other video games, and obviously the process is completely different. I mean, from ones I've done, you just kind of go in, like you said, you read it and you walk out, and that's it. So
pretty much, yeah. You get a 4-hour session. You go in, maybe you do an hour or two of grunts and groans, and hey, he went that way. Okay, thanks, Rick. Thanks for showing up. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah. Was there any talk of a sequel, or actually, I guess you probably would give away the ending if you told me that you died, so you probably can't do that.
No, they were talking about a sequel. I guess a lot of it depends on how well the game ends up doing. If 2K wants to, fund another game, because I know they're incredibly expensive to produce, at this level with the motion capture and all that stuff, it gets very expensive. But I think it all depends on how the audience responds. The reviews have been pretty good, especially for the voice acting, which is nice. I think if it ends up doing well, there definitely will be a Mafia 3, and I think Vito would still be have a chance to be a part of it, whether in I won't give it away.
Maybe they're flashbacks. Maybe they're not flashbacks. Maybe he's a little older. Who knows? Maybe he's
who knows?
Maybe he's Pacino. Now he's running the Flamingo.
Right. Yeah. Vito in Vegas. Yeah. Part 3. Yeah.
So I know besides voiceover, which you also have done some voices for Family Guy, and you were in Ice Age, I think, one of the Ice Age movies. Mm-hmm. You do commercial work as well for voiceover, but you're also doing, I guess just every kind of acting. You do on camera, you do commercials.
I do whatever they let me do.
and it's actually something that topically I just blogged about not too long ago is that top 5% of us that, knock on wood, are lucky enough to be working. You kind of have to diversify. You can't really just do one thing or anymore. I
agree with you, and I think your blog was right on the money. Early on, I think we all have maybe an ideal that we want to be a certain type of actor. We want to emulate, someone like Al Pacino or something, whose first film was, a monster success, and whose second and third, and just became a movie star. And you go, yeah, I'd like to do that. But, you don't always get those doors open for you. So I agree. I think you have to kind of leave yourself open to whatever, as long as you keep working in the business and, you're not, embarrassing yourself, although I've done plenty of embarrassing jobs. I have the tape to prove it.
You brought it up. What was the word? What's your worst? What's the Hall of Shame?
I was just talking about this one actually with one of my friends. The highlight or low light of my career was I did a job on Days of Our Lives, and I was hired to do this character because they were in Italy, and because I could speak Italian. But at the time, I was too young to play the role. They were looking for a guy in his 50s. I got on set. They hired me sight unseen. They hired me. I showed up, and they put a mustache and they grayed my hair. I looked like Super Mario Brothers had just stumbled onto the set of Days of Our Lives. It will go down in history as one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
So did you get?
Yes, I still have the tape.
Oh, of course you do. One's
yeah.
You put that on Letterman when you make it on there.
Yeah, that's in the archives. Yeah.
Did you start in New York? 'Cause I know you're from New York. Did you start in New York, or did you come out here and just go for it?
Yeah, I started in New York. I think you and I came up a lot in the same way. We did. I did theater. I was doing Tony and Tina's Wedding in New York.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Had I been in New York, I would have played your younger brother because I was Johnny.
Exactly
and you were Tony.
Right. We would have been family. So that's I started out doing the theater, and in that time in New York was also my first venture. I was doing on camera commercials, and that's when I also first started doing voiceover, just by pure fluke luck. It's one of those things. I was with a commercial agency in New York, and they said, "Hey, go around the corner. There's this Domino's, pizza audition or whatever it was." And of course, didn't know at all what I was doing, and of course I got the job because I was completely unprepared for it. And that's what started me doing voiceover, and thank God for that.
Did you ever have any kind of formal training in voiceover, or were you just sort of taking your commercial acting ability and just reading just reading it not?
Yeah, I never. I mean, I've taken classes along the way to try to when I was working on specific things. For example, doing animation. As you know, it's a very different. It's a very different aspect of voiceover. There's different things that you need to do and work on, and just to create those. Work on those different muscles that you have. So I've taken classes for that, and then and along the way. But mostly I relied on just my regular my acting training to try to just bring myself to doing voiceover. And the trend to me seems to be that every piece of copy I pick up says we don't want announcers, we want real actors, and and it seems to be the trend now. It's everything real, and bring your own self to it. And I kind of feel that's the way to go with everything. You bring a little bit of yourself to it, and no one's going to be the same as you. So
that obviously helped in for Mafia 2, but also for some of the cartoon work you've done. Is you've been able to actually use your actual acting training as opposed to just hey, I'm a voice and I can read copy.
Absolutely, and it gives an advantage because there are those guys out there with those beautiful voices that can just go and read the phone book, and you go, that was fantastic. I love this guy. I'll buy anything he's selling. And then you guys got to work a little harder, like me. So so I think as much of that stuff that you can bring to it, and it's always about creating the specifics, the who's, the what, the where's, and all the training that you've done over the years to make that stuff real. And I think it helps bring it off the page too. Was
it hard for something like Mafia 2? Was it hard to not go cartoony with it? Because we all know the difference. Well, I shouldn't say we all know, but the difference between cartoony, over the top kind of voices, and I think a lot of the video games are just going no, real acting, real. Was it hard to kind of rein in, or was it natural instinct just kind of take over for that? Again, I think because this process was so unique, we had the opportunity to be with other actors in the room, other really good actors, by the way, and the director was in tune with us enough to let us be. In other words, you do 5, 6, 7 takes of a scene, and he would give you, try it this way, try it that way, but he would always let us do one completely on our own. And I think we always went for understated, underplayed, keep it real. What would I really say if I was in a car with these two guys and we're on our way to, bury a body? I don't know. You have to kind of create those situations, but basically you put two guys in a car and they're going to start breaking each other's chops, and that's what we started to do, and that's the stuff that really brings the game alive when you're going to rob a bank and you're talking about who farted in the car. I think that that stuff happens. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah,
it's little bits of magic.
That's good. So you were able to really just sort of play with everything and not stick to the script, which is. It's unique. It hardly ever happens.
It hardly ever happens. I mean, and they were very specific about story, and they had really. Eventually, we got the dialogue, I think, to be really well crafted and really interesting story. It's not often, I think, especially with video games, it's all about blowing stuff up and how many cops can you shoot and kind of just beat this game in the quickest amount of time possible. I think the goal with Mafia 2 was to get the players. People playing the game actually caring about the characters, and the only way to do that is to, be a little bit emotionally invested in, whether they win or lose, whether they die or live, or, real drama, and creating, drama out of conflict, and I think that's always interesting to people. Have you
told your on-camera agents when they call casting directors now to say, the star of Mafia 2 would like to audition for Medium? Yeah,
I think that and $1.50 and I could ride the bus. But it's I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that has anything to do with it. It's one of those odd things that we have largely anonymous careers in the voiceover industry, and it doesn't always translate, but maybe this will. Who knows?
Rick, thank you very much for coming on the show and talking to us about everything, and wish you best of luck in the future. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Take it easy, man. Bye. That Voiceover Podcast is a co-production of Half Full and Get Creative Inc. For more information, go to thatvoiceoverpodcast.com or check us out on iTunes. Thanks for listening. I'm Mike Greco.